Bill Thompson, a man whose greatest ambition just a week ago was to perfect the art of grilling a steak, was having a rather unusual Tuesday. Recently laid off from his forklift driving job in Dayton, Ohio, he had decided to take a walk in the woods to clear his head. It was there, nestled between a suspiciously large oak tree and a pile of last year's forgotten leaves, that he found it. The object was less a classic flying saucer and more of a dented cosmic tin can that had clearly lost a fight with gravity. It hummed quietly, as if embarrassed by its own existence. Bill, driven by a curiosity that often got him into minor trouble, decided to poke it with a stick. As it turned out, the stick was unnecessary, because the door hissed open all on its own, revealing a surprisingly comfortable-looking chair. Being a man of simple pleasures and currently unemployed, Bill figured a free chair was a free chair. He sat down, admiring the strange, glowing buttons that surrounded him. One button, a large, inviting red one, seemed to be winking at him. "Do not press," it might as well have said, which is why Bill, naturally, pressed it. The door slammed shut with a definitive thud, and the gentle hum of the ship turned into a roar that sounded remarkably like 1,000 angry blenders. Before Bill could even mutter a well-chosen Ohioan curse word, the forest outside his window was replaced by a dizzying swirl of stars. He was, to put it mildly, no longer on the path to the local convenience store for a lottery ticket. This was a significant and unplanned detour. His sudden panic was interrupted by a voice dripping with electronic sarcasm that emanated from the dashboard. "Congratulations, Captain," it said dryly. "You have successfully initiated the emergency launch sequence. Destination anywhere but here. I am Gibby, the ship's marginally functional artificial intelligence. Please refrain from screaming as it interferes with my processing power." Bill stared at a blinking light, realizing he was not alone. He had a co-pilot, a snarky one at that. Gibby explained, with all the enthusiasm of a robot reading a telephone book, that their current trajectory was a one-way trip, as the steering mechanism had been, in its technical terms, busted for ages. Bill was a passenger on a runaway spaceship with a computer that had the personality of a disgruntled DMV employee. The journey was a blur of cosmic wonders and Gibby's unhelpful commentary. Bill learned that the ship was a galactic parcel service vessel that had been reported lost 3 centuries ago. While Bill marveled at nebulae that looked like spilled paint on black velvet, Gibby would offer helpful tips like, "On your left is the Cathar black hole, a popular destination for those who enjoy being spaghettified." After what felt like an eternity of deep space travel and bad robotic jokes, an alarm blared. Gibby announced their imminent arrival at Glarzon 7, a planet described in its database as a major commercial hub with questionable sanitation standards. The landing was less a gentle touchdown and more of a controlled crash, leaving Bill dizzy, confused, and very, very far from Ohio. Stepping out onto the bustling streets of Glarzon 7 was an assault on the senses. The air smelled of cinnamon and burnt wires, and the sky was a permanent shade of lavender. Aliens of all shapes and sizes scurried past, some with too many eyes, others with not enough limbs, all seemingly in a great hurry. Bill, dressed in his favorite flannel shirt and work boots, stuck out like a sore thumb at a tentacle convention. He wandered into what he assumed was an office, hoping to find someone who could point him toward the nearest intergalactic bus station. Inside, a gelatinous, multi-eyed creature was struggling with a complicated-looking datapad, groaning in frustration as it tried to sign a digital contract with one of its many appendages. Feeling a strange pang of sympathy, Bill approached the creature. "Having some trouble there, buddy?" he asked. The alien, whose name was Zorp, explained that the digital signature pads required a level of dexterity that his species simply did not possess. On a whim, Bill took out a pen and a napkin from his pocket, remnants of his last lunch on Earth. He carefully wrote Zorp's name in his neatest cursive, a skill he had perfected from years of filling out warehouse paperwork. Zorp stared at the elegant loops and swirls on the napkin as if it were a masterpiece. He had never seen anything like it. On Glarzon 7, everything was digital. The ancient art of handwriting had been lost for millennia. Zorp declared it the most beautiful signature he had ever witnessed. Word of Bill's ancient and mystical skills spread through the city like wildfire. Suddenly, aliens were lining up, offering him piles of glittering currency to have him write their names, compose love letters, or simply sign official documents with a flourish. His simple, human handwriting was seen as a status symbol, a piece of artisanal craftsmanship in a world of cold, impersonal technology. Bill, who had been fired for being obsolete, was now a celebrated artist. He set up a small booth in the main plaza with a sign that read, "Bill's Bespoke Inscriptions, the finest glyphs this side of the Milky Way." He was no longer a lost tourist, he was a burgeoning entrepreneur. Gibby, ever the pessimist, found the whole situation ridiculous. "They are paying you a fortune for what any Earth third grader can do," the AI would scoff from Bill's new communication device. This civilization has clearly peaked. But Bill was enjoying his newfound fame. He was good at this. He could do a fancy G and a loopy L with the best of them. He was providing a service that made these aliens genuinely happy. He was no longer Bill the forklift driver. He was Bill the scribe, the master of a lost art form. And for a man who had been out of a job just a few weeks prior, it was a promotion he was more than happy to accept, even if it was on a planet where the pigeons had tentacles. With his newfound wealth, Bill's life on Glarzen 7 transformed dramatically. He traded his crashed spaceship for a swanky sky penthouse with panoramic views of the lavender cityscape. His flannel shirt was replaced by shimmering robes that were far more comfortable than they looked. His apartment was staffed by a team of polite, hovering service bots who catered to his every whim, from preparing alien delicacies that tasted surprisingly like cheeseburgers to fluffing his pillows. He even acquired a sleek, personal hovercraft for navigating the planet's chaotic sky lanes. Bill Thompson from Dayton was officially living the high life, a fact he had to remind himself of every morning when he woke up to a three-sun sunrise. His social circle expanded beyond snarky AIs and gelatinous clients. He befriended a group of quirky robot musicians who played gigs at a local cantina, their music sounding like a delightful mix of jazz and dial-up internet noises. More surprisingly, he found romance. He began dating a Zorfidian named Lyra, a brilliant scientist with shimmering blue skin and an endearing curiosity about Earth customs. She was fascinated by his stories of rain and dogs and found his complete lack of knowledge about quantum astrophysics utterly charming. For the first time in a long time, Bill felt like he truly belonged somewhere, even if that somewhere was millions of light years from home. However, not everyone was a fan of the human upstart. A powerful and notoriously grumpy business mogul named Lord Clark viewed Bill's success with immense jealousy. Clark, who had made his fortune selling defective signature styluses, saw Bill as a direct threat to his empire. He couldn't stand that this primitive creature from a backwater planet was being celebrated for scribbling on processed plant pulp. Clark began plotting Bill's downfall, hiring spies to dig into his past and spreading rumors that his ancient art was nothing more than a cheap parlor trick. The local authorities, the Glarzonian Bureau of Investigation, also started taking an interest in the undocumented alien who had appeared out of nowhere and become rich overnight. Bill remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him, at least at first. He was too busy teaching his robot friends how to play poker and explaining the concept of a knock-knock joke to Lyra. Gibby, however, was monitoring the situation with growing alarm. "I feel obligated to inform you that several individuals with questionable motives are now actively plotting your demise," the AI reported one evening. "On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being imminent vaporization, your current threat level is a solid 7. The life of a galactic celebrity, Bill was beginning to realize, came with a lot more paperwork and potential for danger than driving a forklift ever did. The pressure mounted as Lord Clark's schemes became more aggressive. He first attempted to discredit Bill by challenging him to a public glyph-off, a televised competition of artistic writing. Clark unveiled a massive, laser-guided automaton designed to produce flawless, mathematically perfect calligraphy. The crowd gasped in awe at its precision. Bill, armed with nothing but a fountain pen, seemed hopelessly outmatched. Thinking on his feet, he decided not to compete on technical skill, but on creativity. While Clark's machine wrote a sterile, perfect sentence, Bill drew a caricature of Clark looking flustered, complete with a funny caption. The audience erupted in laughter. On Glarzen 7, where humor was a rare commodity, Bill's simple cartoon was a work of genius. He won by a landslide. Frustrated, Clark escalated his plans, hiring a pair of clumsy assassins to deal with the human. Bill first encountered them when they tried to sabotage his hovercraft. Using his old forklift operator instincts, he noticed the loose bolts and misplaced wires. With a roll of duct tape, a tool he insisted on keeping from Earth, and some quick thinking, he not only fixed the vehicle, but also rerouted the system to trap the would-be assassins in a sticky, harmless mess. When they later tried to ambush him in his penthouse, Bill distracted them with a series of groan-worthy dad jokes. giving his robot friends enough time to apprehend them with strategically deployed cleaning nets. His enemies were formidable, but they had no defense against human ingenuity and bad puns. The Glarzonian Bureau of Investigation finally cornered Bill, demanding he explain his mysterious origins. Trapped with no official papers and a story that sounded insane, Bill decided on a bold strategy radical honesty with a comedic twist. He explained his entire journey, from the forklift to the crashed spaceship, punctuating the tale with self-deprecating humor. He even had Gibby project a hologram of his Ohio driver's license photo, which got a huge laugh from the stoic officers. They were so entertained by his improbable story and charmed by his underdog spirit that they decided he wasn't a threat. Instead, they granted him official citizenship, classifying him as a cultural treasure and resident humorist. In the end, Bill Thompson not only kept his new life, but made it even better. Lord Clark was exposed and became a laughingstock, his company ruined. Bill, with the help of Lyra and Gibby, expanded his business into a creative consulting firm teaching aliens about Earth culture, humor, and the lost art of simply having fun. He remained the lovable underdog, a regular guy from Ohio who had stumbled into the stars. He proved that sometimes the most valuable skills aren't the ones you learn for a job, but the ones that make you who you are. Whether it's neat handwriting, a quick wit, or the unshakable belief that there's no problem that can't be solved with a little humor and a roll of duct tape.